Oh, yeah, doom and gloom coming at 9:30, folks. No, I'm not talking about Washington, D.C. shutting down. Which, by the way, I got some emails from people. You said it don't affect somebody. It's affected me. Well, let's just wait and see over time how much it affects you. Okay, let's just wait and see in time over how much it affects. Most people like me who just went on about my day and didn't worry about none of that mess. I know it affects some people. You know, by the way, Brandon, they're having record amounts of money coming in to the tax. Record amount of money coming, and they can't agree on anything. So I wouldn't give in to DACA. I wouldn't give in to this illegal buy votes, bill of votes at all. I wouldn't need it. I just wouldn't. And by the way, this is not going to hurt Trump. I heard people that this Trump shutdown. Trump's not up for re-election for 3 years. Number two is his people. They like the fact that he's shaking things up. By the way, the House and the Senate have to agree on things. Trump doesn't have to agree on anything. It's the House and Senate. Anyway, the doom and gloom I'm talking about is Bill Edwards. First I heard he was going to speak at 11 or 12. Then I saw 9 o'clock in the Advocate. Now they say 9:30, Brandon. If we get a chance to carry some of it with May, we do know that the governor is going to come out. He's supposed to cut $1 billion out the budget. He's going to cut $1 billion out the budget because then if he does that, this is all this is. This is such a game. All this is sending out a message to the people he needs to go chew Republican House members out. That's all this is. It has nothing to do with reality. If I was the House Republicans, if they want to keep playing games, Brandon, if he gives out the House budget and it's got $1 billion in cuts, including 100% of the top's gone, the House members ought to just vote yes on the whole budget and send it to the Senate. It ain't going to pass. Send it to them. And if anybody says, what are y'all doing? Well, we only supported the budget that Governor John Bel Edwards, the one-term governor. By the way, I read now, it's been confirmed, Jay Darden's writing the budget. The liberal Jay Darden. So why don't the House in Baton Rouge just pass the budget that Governor Bel Edwards sends you? That's easy stuff right there. And when the press goes, this is irresponsible, go, no. We're doing what y'all want to do. Read every editorial, every newspaper article you could possibly read from the Lake Charles American Press, the Gannett newspapers, the Advocate, the Times-Picayune. They all want to go with Edwards' budget. They all want to go with the task force budget. Well, if Bel Edwards gives the budget, just vote for it 100%, just like it is. And when they say the House Republicans are not being responsible, well, was Bel Edwards responsible? We voted for his budget. You want to floor them? Look, the Senate's going to kick it back. They got John Alario, the magician. Everything's done right. He's been running the state for 48 years. Ain't got it right yet. Got it right for himself. Got it right for his buddies. Got it right for bringing home the bacon. But he's never gotten it right for the citizens of Louisiana. So why don't they just pass the budget? The reality is they're not going to do that. I would do it. Yeah, that's right. That vote you out. Well, I never get voted in. It's a game, and all it is a game. And anyway, every article I read, pop in the House, promoting the John Bel Edwards budget. Here's what's funny. They're promoting that Bel Edwards is taking this task force that I went over with, y'all, time and time again, that is built up with government people. Edwards put his people. Jay Darden's on it. John Alario put 3 people on it. You know, they got government officials that work for government on it. I mean, it's a joke. The task force is a joke. That's like the government, the task force on dealing with casinos. Now they're getting ready to expand gambling. Here we go again. We have no money. We're broke. They don't want to quit spending. We're getting ready to expand gambling again, which is stupid. Nobody should build an economy on gambling. If you do, it is truly fool's gold. That's that word again. Fool's gold. But here we go again. Ronnie Johns at Lake Charles going to expand that gambling, baby. Gonna make them casinos bigger. It's all to expand gambling because we don't want to do what's right here. You expand gambling, I think out-migration will continue. That means we're not going to look at real jobs that really produce something. Now I'm going to get an email, Brandon. By the way, you can email me anytime, moon@moongriffon.com. I work for the casinos without that job. No, that's fine. fine. You want to gamble till your heart's away. If that's where you want to work, that's fine. There's no way to run an economy. We're going to expand it because we don't want to quit spending, and we want new ways for money. See, Brandon, I always thought, if all we care about is money, we don't care about morals and how we do it, they ought to automatically legalize every dope that's out there and tax it, and they ought to legalize prostitution and tax it. People want to drink, they want to have dope, they want to go to casinos, they want to sleep around on their partners or go pay for it, then just do it and tax it, and everybody's going to be happy, right? That's how, I mean, if you really read between the lines of what the newspapers and some of these representatives push, everybody's going to be happy if we can just raise taxes. So why not? Hey, prostitution. You know, people say people are going to have sex anyway. Just legalize it. Legalize every dope, cocaine, heroin, everything, and just tax it so we'll have plenty of money for state government. That's what everybody cares about. That dang state government, we got to have money for them. Not for you, not for your family. Hell, you just get the hell out of here and go get you a new job somewhere. We got our migration problem. Now just legalize it all. I'm just reading between the lines. Expand gambling, expand prostitution, expand dope. And let's all have fun. Shoot, man, just think how much money the state would have. They would never bother us about taxes again, right? Well, if you read between the lines, that's what they're telling us. So anyway, I pick up all the newspapers. I'm not going to go through them all. Jim Beam. Let me go over something that I try to explain to you folks that I've heard from the Advocate. I've heard from Stephanie Grace. I've heard from the Deputy Press Secretary, Jim Beam, did it again yesterday. I heard from Tyler Bridges, did it again yesterday. The NOLA Times-Picayune, they've all said this, okay? Every one of them has said this. They all said that John Bel Edwards inherited $2 billion deficit. And I say John Bel Edwards didn't inherit anything. They always blame Jindal, and they say, John Bel, look what he inherited. And I say they expanded that because that was going to be $800 million that grew to $2 billion. And John Bel Edwards, excuse me, didn't inherit anything. Let me tell you why. He was there as a legislator for 8 years. If he had inherited that means his voting record should be clean as a whistle forever voting for anything that Bobby Jindal put in the deal. But guess what we find out? He voted for 6 of the 8 Bobby Jindal's budgets. Now, I keep saying it's 5. Everybody's telling me 6 now. So I'm just taking their numbers. 5 or 6, what the heck's the difference? So he votes for 6 of the 8 budgets. He votes for 75% of Bobby Jindal's budget, yet Jim Beam, Tyler Bridges, everybody in the Advocate, the Times-Picayune, the Gannett newspaper, Greg Hilburn, who ought to not count because he's not right on anything, they tell us he inherited a budget, but he voted for 75% of Jindal's budget. But here's the big one that I found out today, and I didn't go back and look at it, and I wish I would have, and I want to thank Stephanie Grace for doing the homework, okay? Stephanie Grace did the homework. You know what else he did? He voted to get rid of the Stelly bill, which, by the way, newspaper articles again yesterday. Should have kept the Stelly bill. Should have kept the Stelly bill. They will tell you, Jim Beam's done it. Stephanie Grace did it again yesterday. They said the Stelly bill, which, by the way, was a massive income tax increase on the middle class and the working class and business owners like me. Okay. We find out now that the gold standard of ethics, well, that was general, that's right. We find out now the honor code, you know what he did? He voted yes on getting rid of the Stelly bill, which, according to every newspaper, and let me quote Jim Beam again today. Jim Beam, Deputy Press Secretary for him. Let me quote him again. I got it right here, Brandon. More than $2 billion deficit John Bel Edwards inherited from former Governor Bobby Jindal. But yet we find out he voted to get rid of Stelly bill. I thought it was a great vote on John Bell's part, actually, to get rid of that stupidity bill of increasing income taxes on working people while we got people leaving the state. But if you go by them, this is where the hypocrisy comes in from the Louisiana press. Not all of them, but the ones that cover the legislature. The hypocrisy comes, they keep blaming Jindal's tax cut of the Stelly bill as being the biggest problem of what this started, how this started. Go read any of the editorials. I'm reading them. Well, if that was the biggest problem, how did John Bel Edwards inherit a budget of $2 billion when he voted for the bill that Bobby Jindal got rid of, and Jindal didn't get rid of it? Jindal didn't want to get rid of it. I already told y'all how that happened. He got in front of the train, way in front of the train, ran in front of the train, and take credit for it. These people are so disingenuous in the press, and I feel sorry for Baton Rouge and people in New Orleans that don't listen to this, and people reading Jim Beam and believing anything Beam says. You're going to be bass-ackwards all your life because the man is an Edward sycophant. He doesn't want the truth. How can he keep saying John Bel Edwards inherited a budget from Bobby Jindal? They keep saying the Stelly bill caused all the problem, and he voted to get rid of the Stelly bill, but he inherited it? Brandon, that'd be like saying, I got a little bit of debt on a house and a vehicle note. Can I blame God for that? Who am I going to blame? I want to blame somebody. I want somebody to tell me that I inherited my car note and my house note. I inherited that, and I can go get somebody to help me pay for it now. This is all hypocrisy at the highest level, coming from the press corps and Bel Edwards. We'll be back. More to come, folks. I'm just starting. Man, I have inherited a house debt and inherited a car debt. And my name couldn't be on there, huh, Brandon? There's no way. That's how you inherit stuff. You vote for stuff, and then you don't get any blame for it. You get credit for fixing the problem that you committed. Must be nice to be Bel Edwards or Obama, where the press loves you and you can do no wrong. Welcome back, Moon Griffon Show. 844-766-6607. Hickson has it hotline. By the way, we'll be at Hickson Autoplex in Ellick on Friday. I tell you what, Brandon, what's the date? I think it's Friday. What's the date? 22nd, 23rd? Yeah, 22nd. 26th, be Friday.
Oh, there you
So
go.
we'll be there in Dallas, looking forward to visiting with Dallas. But folks, this is what they've been doing to y'all. People in some parts of the state are not getting this. They're not getting the truth. I'm just giving you the truth. I mean, it's a joke to read a Bel Edwards. I mean, it's a joke to read Jim Beam, the deputy press secretary. It's a joke to read Tyler Bridges and Stephanie Grace. I mean, let me just give information to people. I guarantee you there are people that think Bel Edwards inherited a bad budget from Bobby Jindal, which, by the way, Brandon, let me fast forward. He's going to present a budget today of doom and gloom that will fire up the people to go get on the Republicans. But, Brandon, it's amazing. They're blaming the House Republicans for the budget mess, but they blame Bobby Jindal, the governor, for the budget mess of the last 8 years. Now, which one are you going to blame? You blame the governor in one instance, and you blame the legislature in the other instance. Is that not amazing? Are y'all not watching what I'm watching? The press says Bobby Jindal inherited from Bobby Jindal. Okay, fast forward. It's not Bel Edwards' fault, which, by the way, Brandon, he used one-time money. He did the same thing Bel Edwards did. Bobby Jindal did in his first budget. Exact same thing. And then he raised $2.8 billion in new taxes. And now he's a hero. This guy's a hero for raising taxes. He's a hero and they shoving. Look, I'm not a defender of Bobby Jindal. As you know, I was way ahead of the press by 6 years. 6 or 7 years ahead of them guys. Now Jindal's the bad guy. And I was telling y'all what Jindal was doing way back then was wrong. And by the way, I was right, and I'm right about Edwards. He's a one-term governor. This is a joke. You're going to blame Jindal, but turn around and blame the legislature. This looks like what's going on in Washington, D.C. It does. They keep bringing up this looks like Washington, D.C. It does. The press has moved down from D.C. to come to Louisiana, and the press looks like Washington, D.C. I'm just astonished how it's all Jindal's fault, yet Bel Edwards voted to get rid of Stelly. They claimed that was the cause of all this. By the way, it wasn't. Spending's the problem. You notice the press never talks about spending. You notice this great task force never talks about spending. You notice Jim Beam never talks about spending. The Advocate never talks about spending. Nola never talks about spending. Nobody but me. I'm it. None of them address the spending problem. We have too many universities, too many employees, all the problems that we have. And they just want to keep spending. Why do you think casinos are coming back up, folks? God, they convinced everybody that gambling was going to take us away from our budget problems, and all we do is deal with budget problems every year. Didn't fix anything because of spending. Let's take a call real quick. I got a lot of stuff here, folks. David on the road somewhere in North Louisiana. David, how you doing?
Doing well, Moon. I think that the thing that John Bell Edwards has inherited is the ghost of Huey Long.
Bingo.
I think that Bell Edwards is no different than Huey was back in his day, promising the people of Louisiana free textbooks and all the things that Huey did in Louisiana history, and tried to be a populist and ended up costing middle-class Louisiana people back in Huey's day the same way that Bell Edwards is costing us today. What do you think about that?
I think you're closer to that than him inheriting a budget deficit from Bobby Jindal. He created it. He helped create. If you listen to them, I'm taking their own words. That Stelly bill. I've seen so many articles that if they wouldn't have got rid of the Stelly bill. Matter of fact, Stephanie Grace in the article talks about the Stelly bill. I don't know if Veeam did or not. He normally does. He's talked about the Stelly bill many times. Tyler Bridges, Stelly bill. Stelly bill caused the problem, and Edwards voted for it. So if Edwards voted for the Stelly bill, and Edwards voted for 6 of 8 of Bobby Jindal's budgets, which is 75% of the budgets, how in the heck did he inherit the $2 billion deficit when he was a part of it? So Robert Adley, who you've heard about on this program, Robert Adley voted for 8 of 8 Bobby Jindal budget. He's out there smacking Jindal. John Alario voted for 8 budgets. I can go on and on. I mean, Jim Big Lake Fannin voted for 8 budgets. Francis DeFee Thompson voted for 8 budgets. They're not talking about them because they're in the Senate. This is pitiful. By the way, you are correct. We're going to take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Wow, I like that. Wow, sound like Stevie P. How y'all all? Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show, 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. Gus Ranch joins us. Gus, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Moon. How you doing?
Well, you made a good point. I know you're in healthcare. The governor's whatever cuts he comes up with is to get that group of people to get on the phone and start raising hell with the Republican lawmakers in the House that we need more taxes. That's all this is a political ploy.
Well, I mean, you saw in the Times-Picayune article, I think it was yesterday, that, they have a million of them touting the governor's wares, but the $1 billion shortfall could close hospitals and jeopardize med schools.
That was the headline.
And then the quote they have from the governor is there's no option but to slash important government services. No option. It's like Nancy Pelosi when she said there was nothing that could be cut from the federal government. Not one thing.
Nope. And that's the
Every
problem.
Year we seem to be doing this dance.
But the problem is a total spending problem, Gus. I mean, you got a spending problem. You're not going to shut it down. I notice we're cranking back up casinos. We're going to take riverboat, put them on the land, expand them, and that's all about more money to government. That told me everything I needed to know about what this session is about.
Moon, it's been 2 years now on the job, right?
Yep.
What long-term, 10-year, 20-year, 50-year plan has the governor put into place to alleviate, what evasive maneuvers has he taken? Not one.
Not one.
Not one. And this is why, you said from the beginning he'd be a one-term governor. I often wondered if he was going to be able to pull the wool over everybody's eyes again. I mean, clearly he's a one-trick pony, though.
Well,
we know what he's going to do.
Well, what happens is the press and the media, they know deep down how he won. He didn't win. Yeah, he won. He got the most votes. He won that way. But everybody knows how he really won. They doing all they can to make sure that he wins again. I can't see that happening at all. And I think right here is proving the point that they're blaming Republicans. They keep saying he inherited the problem. He voted for the problem, Gus. He voted for the whole problem, yet he inherited it. It's funny how they blame Jindal, but now they blame the House Republicans. They blame the governor back then. Now they blame the representatives.
it's an amazing moral high ground to be able to take. It's the same way in the federal government. When the Republicans were in the minority, they were the problem for the shutdown. Now they're in the majority, they're the problem for the shutdown. Now, I won't get off topic onto that, but it's the same story. The press just falls in love.
No,
here's my question, though.
That's why I keep saying that the press in D.C. has moved down here. There is no difference now. They got the one they want to protect, they protect him. But what's your question?
We had a $100 million surplus last fiscal season. Right, and I realized that was only had that surplus because we raised $1 billion of taxes. I realize that.
Billions.
But what did we do different from last year than this year? What less money are we spending this year from years past? No one can answer that question.
Actually, I'll give it to you. We're spending $5.3 billion more than the budget that ended in 2016 and the budget that's going to end in 2018. $5.3 billion more. And by the way, when you hear the liar Robert Adley say it's all federal, that's not true. We've increased $2.4 to $2.8 billion in new taxes. Sales taxes being about 1.2%. That's what we've done. By the way, they keep claiming that he cut $600 million out the budget. If a budget grows $5.3 billion, how can you have cut $600 million out? That means you wanted to spend $6 billion?
I've used that analogy before. I wanted to buy a Ferrari this year, but I had to cut it then down to a Ford. So I cut hundreds of thousands out of my budget. I don't think anybody's patting me on the back for doing that.
No, but that's what they tell people. When Robert Adley, who, by the way, voted for 8 of 8 Bobby Jindal budgets, voted to get rid of the Stelly bill, and by the way, that was a great vote. But they say that caused the problem. Well, listen to them. If that caused the problem, they ought to tell Robert Adley to quit, at Bell Edwards to quit, John Hilario to quit, Francis Thompson to quit. What's the guy from the lake guy? Big Lake Fannin. Big Lake Fannin got every Jindal budget to pass through appropriations. And Big Lake Fannin said, well, that's what they say is budget. He voted for every one of them. Hell, people in Monroe put him in office. Put him in the Senate.
I'm hopeful that our representatives and our senators, we're finally starting to see some of this out of them, and I'm very proud of them, that it's not just roll over and play dead and whenever the governor wants. And I mean, we've really had a pretty weak state reps and pretty weak state senators. And I'm not a term limits guy per se, but I got to say I think it's doing some good, hopefully, in our state side, because we're starting to see some new blood. I mean, look, John Hilario, whether you think lots of great things about him or lots of negative things about him, it's time to move on. It's time for us to put somebody else in there.
You ready for this? You ready for this?
Oh, Lord, he's not.
John Bell Edwards is running for re-election. If for some reason he would win, I don't think he can, but if he was to win, the word was that John Hilario is going to go back to the House. If he goes back to the House, he will be Speaker of the House.
He will not be Speaker, Moon.
Well, okay, that's what they told me about the Senate, and I just stuck my ground, and it's going to be 8 years in the Senate. Hey, if he's not there, he'll be in the most important committees, and guess who votes first? They vote alphabetical order. A. Hilario votes. You ought to see people.
Look, I've been fighting that alphabetical order thing my whole career.
Well, people turn around and look at him to see how he votes. Is he ready?
Well, let's let you know what's going on. So basically, they're in the joint budget meeting right now. Governor Edwards has just come in, but he has not sat at the table where he's going to speak. He basically sat in the second row. So he's going to be speaking soon, but just letting you know where he's at.
If we get a chance, we're going to listen to some of it. I'd like to hear some of it. All right, Gus, anything else you want to add?
About all the numerous universities that are in the state and how TOPS has kind of exacerbated the problem with them raising tuition. I think we need to overhaul TOPS completely. But what we don't talk about is we have a glut of a lot of big box hospitals, which is the business that I'm in. And we've been really remiss in this state to go and kind of make those more form-fitting for the communities that they're serving. It's just the more beds and the bigger the building, we keep funding them. And that can be a loss leader, too, in some communities. I think everything has to be on the table.
But they're not putting it, because let me tell you something. Part of that equation with the tax committee, this tax task force, was supposed to come back with cuts, and they've not done any of that. I'm just being honest. We got to take a break. Gus, thank you so much. We'll take a break, and we're going to go take the break now, hoping to catch Edwards coming out of the break. Okay, we're going to go right to Governor Bell Edwards and Jay Darden with their budget right now.
Department of Veterans Affairs, while we have hundreds of Louisiana men and women overseas at this moment risking their lives for our freedom. We've also been able to preserve funding for our military department and the Inspector General. We've protected Children and Family Services so they can continue their important work. And in fact, last year, DCFS had a record number of adoptions, surpassing the all-time previous record that had just been set the year before. I don't want to slow that momentum, and I know they have an awful lot of other things that they do that are critically important as well. We also protected K-12 schools from deep cuts, so our children's education is not needlessly threatened. Unfortunately, that's where our ability to spare critical priorities from deep cuts ends. As you all know, there's $9.6 billion in state general fund in the current fiscal year. That number falls to $8.6 billion next year. That is the fiscal cliff. We have approximately $3.4 billion of the state general fund that can actually be cut. And as you know, the two big pots of funding on that side of the discretionary state general fund ledger are higher education and health care. And the biggest cuts had to come from those two areas. It's simple arithmetic. Therefore, you're going to find drastic cuts to health care, corrections, higher education, and yes, TOPS. This is because the budget proposal is based on $8.6 billion in state general fund. And it's noteworthy that that is almost $2 billion less than the state general fund in the 2007-8 budget of 10 years ago. And the amount of non-discretionary spending required in law has actually increased greatly over the last 10 years. So I want to be clear. This is not the budget that I want to present to you, and it is certainly not the budget that I want implemented. But these are the choices that have to be made when $1 billion in revenue is set to roll off the books and has not yet been replaced. This is what falling off the cliff looks like. For those of you who insist that we can cut our way out of this, identify the cuts. But be specific. Don't hide behind a claim that the legislature doesn't pass budgets, that you don't make cuts, that all you do is appropriate. That's nonsense. It's your constitutional obligation. I've made more than $600 million in state general fund spending cuts in the 2 years that I've been in office. And if we can identify other areas where cuts can be responsibly made without harming the people of Louisiana, I'm certainly willing to work with you on those cuts. We should always strive to make government more efficient, but we can't sit here and honestly say that this problem can be solved simply by cutting. If that's what you believe, I can respect it, but stand up and show the people of Louisiana what you want to cut. Contrary to what some might say, I'm not trying to use fear tactics. In fact, none of these cuts should come as a shock to any of you, because we've already been here before. This is basically the same problem that I sat here 2 years ago asking you to work with me then on a permanent fix. I did so again last year before the 2017 fiscal session. Let me remind you, this problem exists because the previous administration left us with a $2 billion budget shortfall and a budget that was propped up by using one-time funds, more than $860 million, to pay for recurring expenses. This is a problem that was 8 years in the making. You chose to temporarily patch up the problem for 27 months, and the day of reckoning is at hand. Since taking office, I proposed a balanced approach of cuts, savings, and revenue to address our problems. While we made some incredibly hard cuts, you also chose to pass temporary revenue measures instead of long-term tax reform. I was promised, more importantly, the people of Louisiana were promised, that those measures would serve as a bridge until the 2017 fiscal session. But when the legislature had the opportunity to dive deep into the budget and make necessary reforms, with the benefit of recommendations from a task force that you created specifically for that purpose, you didn't take it. In fact, not one bill based on the task force recommendations to advance tax reform and address the fiscal cliff ever made it out of the Ways and Means Committee in the 2017 fiscal session. Not one. So the problems haven't changed, and the solutions haven't changed. The only thing that continues to change is the amount of time that we have left to summon the courage to make the tough decisions. And our window of opportunity continues to shrink every day. I know this isn't easy, but I also know it's not going to be easier later. And the longer we wait, the more damage we cause. To say that I am frustrated would be an understatement. But I suspect that's true for many of you as well. And I know it's true for the people of Louisiana who want and deserve for us to fix this problem. They've sent us here to make difficult but sensible decisions. And I believe it's time that we must fix the structural issues plaguing our state. There's still time to come together and responsibly get this done. That's the good news. We need to do it in a special session next month. On that, the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, and I are all in agreement. The responsible thing to do is to fix the cliff in a special session in February. If we wait until June, all of our state agencies and partner hospitals will have to assume that this is the budget that's going to be implemented, and they're going to have to plan accordingly and make decisions, including the reductions to staff. And this comes just when we're showing signs of life with lower unemployment. We would be taking a dramatic step backwards. We will risk receiving more credit downgrades. Families are going to have a difficult time planning for tuition costs. And thousands of hardworking private sector employees will receive layoff notices on about May the 1st. However, while I agree that we need to do this in February, I'm not willing to call a special session just for the sake of calling it. I will insist upon an agreement in principle between myself and legislative leadership on a permanent and responsible fix to the cliff. I've already told you that I'm willing to be extremely flexible, and I believe that I've proven that to be the case. So work with me. Tell me what aspects of my plan you can live with, and for the parts that you can't, bring me your own plan. I welcome disagreement, but let's not disagree for the sake of disagreeing, and let's try to disagree without being disagreeable. Offer your own ideas. I welcome the discussions. In fact, I've pleaded for them. We can find common ground. But as I sit here, I do not have a plan or any part of a plan from House leadership that addresses this cliff. I cannot negotiate with myself. It doesn't work that way. I've been traveling the state for the past 6 months discussing our budget issues with business leaders and local elected officials all over the state. And I have to tell you that I received the same feedback from just about every one of the individuals with whom I met. They want us to fund higher education and workforce development. They want a healthy workforce. They want us to invest in Louisiana's roads and infrastructure so they can get their products to market. They also want a tax system that is predictable, stable, and fair. And they want us to stabilize the budget and invest in our priorities so they can plan for the future and know that their long-term investments will yield a profitable return. This budget, this year, should serve as a turning point for our state. Make no mistake about it. We have real momentum today in the state of Louisiana. Right now, we have fully stabilized higher education. We have fully funded TOPS in the current year. And because of that stability, all of our higher education systems are seeing a significant increase in admission requests for next year. By projecting funding for higher education, we're also able to land the largest economic development deal in our state's history in direct permanent jobs at one site, DXC Technology in New Orleans. By the way, it was the second best economic development deal in the country last year. Would not have been possible had we not stabilized our state general fund support for higher education. And workforce development will be the key to future investments as well as job growth and job creation. Our unemployment rate is at the lowest point it's been since May of 2008. We are actually seeing wage growth as well. Our state is undeniably doing better, but even more important, so are our families. And while we still have a ways to go, and I'm the first to admit that, there have been positive developments relating to our budget. And in fact, we closed the books on the last fiscal year, my first full fiscal year in office, with a $123 million surplus. You just discussed that. REC upgraded the forecast for the current fiscal year by $153 million, meaning for the first time in many, many years, no destabilizing mid-year cuts to state agencies, to higher education. Moreover, REC upgraded the forecast for next fiscal year by $233 million. This is positive. It is helpful. It's certainly much better than making a change to the negative, which adds to the scope of our problem. But it does not come close to solving our problem, which is the cliff. Now, the fiscal cliff is $994 million based on the most recent REC forecast. The difference between the current REC forecast for this year's budget and the current forecast for next year's State General Fund, $994 million. The temporary revenue falling off the books June 30th, however, and that gives rise to the cliff, is actually $1.38 billion according to the House Fiscal Office. Because of the improved forecast, I propose to replace only $994 million of that $1.38 billion with permanent revenue. Surely we can do this. But even when we do, as Jay's going to mention to you in just a moment, there will still be painful cuts. Tax reform that produces a structure that is stable, predictable, and fair and permanent, and one that replaces $1.38 billion with $994 million, we can do this. As you've heard me say time and time again throughout the state over the past year, I believe Louisiana is on the cusp of prosperity the likes of which we haven't seen in decades. I still believe it. I'm as optimistic today as I have ever been. But I call upon you. Let's join together. Let's prove that we are not Washington, D.C. The federal government today is needlessly shut down.
By the way, we're going to keep going right here with the governor's speech, but we will now play the tone for all of our affiliates to get out and come back and join us right here on KPEL.
And neither is sufficiently concerned about the country as a whole. And I actually think there's a majority in Congress to do everything that each side says they want to do right now, but the government is still shut down. I happen to believe that about this problem, too. There's a majority in this legislature, in the House and in the Senate, who want to permanently fix this cliff and allow Louisiana to move forward and prosper and to create the situations where our businesses and our families prosper as well. So let's prove that we are better than what's going on in Washington. Our people demand it, and they deserve it. So Louisiana's ready, and I'm ready. The only question is, are you? Let's get it done. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to take some questions, if you have any, and then I'll obviously be followed by Commissioner Darden.
All right, members, there's no names on this. Is that you? But hold lower. Okay, thanks.
Presentation. I had a chance to look at the budget this morning. It is a very ugly budget, and I'm certain this is not the budget that you want to present to us today. And it is my hope that we come together as Republicans, as Democrats, and we do what's best for the state of Louisiana, and we put the people of this state over politics. And so thank you for your leadership on this, Governor. And I know, I got an opportunity to know you over the last 2 years, and I know this is not the budget that you want to present today.
It's not, and I told you all that the cuts are far deeper in every area than I think serves the state's best interest. There is not a cut on the list in the magnitude that we have it down in order to close the cliff that I think is good for the state. But it is my constitutional obligation, and you're not going to find in the budget document contingent spending. You're not going to find one-time money, because I continue to believe that the best way forward is to be able to have an honest conversation about where we're at. You can't have an honest conversation if you don't have an honest document in front of you. So it's honest, but it's ugly.
But I think the state needs honesty and truth. And so thank you for the transparency. I do have 2 quick questions for you, and I won't take up much of your time. My very first question is about TOPS. Mm-hmm. Following last year's sessions, a TOPS task force was formed where we studied various recommendations for TOPS. What should it look like going forward? One of the questions that was proposed to the task force, and it's my question before you today, is if TOPS is not fully funded, like it is in this proposed budget, where TOPS is now essentially $35 million funded, should those cuts be allocated equally to all kids, like the law is currently structured, or whether or not priority should be given to those children who have the highest ACT, or whether or not priority should be given to those children who come from tough financial circumstances, or whether or not you propose some hybrid approach that looks to protect those kids with the highest GPA, but also give priority to those children who come from very tough financial circumstances. I just like overarching your thoughts on the subject matter.
What I propose is that we pay for TOPS, 100% of it. That's as simple as straightforward as I can be. I want to pay for TOPS,
and I think we all do.
Yeah. So let's get it done. We can do it. You know, this was I think the first question I got 2 years ago when we presented our first executive budget proposal that was premised upon a $2 billion shortfall. And the first question came about TOPS. I said it then, I'll say it today. I want to fully fund TOPS. Just like I want to fund our partner hospitals and our DAs and our sheriffs and all of the other things that are critically important about our budget.
One final question to you, Governor. I know your budget protects veterans.
Yes.
I certainly appreciate the importance of veterans, and I agree 100% with your approach to protect them. I'm looking at your budget, and to the Department of Elderly Affairs, there's a $1.5 million cut that will close senior centers in Orleans and Jefferson Parish. And just like we're going to protect our veterans, Governor, I would like us across party lines, across the state, let's all agree to protect our seniors. Let's make sure that there's not one gray hair is harmed in our budget. And I certainly would appreciate whatever commitment you can give us today to make certain that whatever budget is finally passed, that it will absolutely protect all the seniors across the state of Louisiana.
That's my goal. Along with all the other cuts that you see, that is not one that I support actually implementing, the cut to the senior centers. Again, this is part of the process that we went through 2 years ago as well, and we ended up with a responsible budget. The only thing that wasn't responsible is it was based upon short-term revenue. Now it's time to make permanent the revenue to replace what is falling off the table. Not asking for net new revenue on those items.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Representative Jay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Governor, for your straightforward presentation this morning. In follow-up to some of the questions, one of the things that is deeply concerning about the reduction of TOPS and why I know you support funding it so much is because it amounts for a significant amount of investment in higher education. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, though I know we've worked hard in this terrible budget situation that we find ourselves in to present a constitutional plan that would reduce higher education by a small amount in state general fund, this TOPS funding is ultimately funding for higher education, is it not?
Well, it is. Now, To be fair, it hasn't always been considered that. In fact, there was a time when it was not in the budget as state support for higher education. It was relocated.
Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has it hotline. Now, look, we're still listening. The governor has done his speech. He's doing a little Q&A. There's been two Democrats that are talking to him right now. We may go back to it. Jay Darden hadn't spoke yet. He'll do all the doom and gloom with the numbers, and I'm not going to just put it on if he's just doing numbers. If we see Cameron Henry, Lance Harris, or somebody like that, we may go back to it again. So we may be in and out with this. They may be there for 30 minutes an hour. Who knows? Anyway, Bell Edwards was on there, and of course, it's just amazing as I listen to this, and this is the same old stuff that I've been trying to explain to you for a while. And they went back and used 2008 numbers. That's because that makes them look the best. 2008 is magical for them. Because what happens is, Brandon, that's when all that money rolled in for Katrina when the budget was high, so they keep saying high is lower now. But they're not telling you, quote, the rest of the story. As we spend $5.2 billion more, which, by the way, is a big chunk of state money. They have reached out and got more federal money, no doubt about it. They're not mentioning in the $300 million. And by the way, it was in a Times-Picayune article. I was shocked they wrote about it. State's going to get back about $300 million from the tax cut from Trump. Because as they lower the rates, the state, we're going to get a break, and the state's going to get more money. Okay, so they're not talking about that $300 million. They're not going to talk about that $300 million. And that the $600 million in cut really puzzles me. And I wish one of the Republicans would say, Governor, be specific. Like you told us to be specific on tax cuts. Follow me on this one, folks. During the course of the speech, the governor said, now you guys come back and be specific on your cuts. Fair question by the governor. When is he going to be specific on the $600 million he cut? Here's the question on that. If he really cut $600 million, how come there was no complaining? How come there was no weeping and gnashing of teeth? How come nobody was tripping? How come we didn't have poor people we cut from the dialysis machines? Or the old people from the dialysis machine, poor people cut off, and nursing care and daycare centers cut, and employees cut on May 15th. How come he was so good? He cut $600 million out the budget, and nobody noticed it. But if the Republicans last year wanted to cut Brandon $200 million out the budget, and everybody noticed it, and tops. How come if he cut $600 million, it didn't affect tops? You see, folks, that's bogus. And they ought to hold it to him. But they probably won't. But if I was there, I would probably be thrown out of the building because I'd want to know specifics. I would be real consistent. Okay? And all I got to do is be consistent with it. He claims, bring back the cuts. Show us the cuts, Bill Edwards. And the governor can't. By the way, Jay Darden's getting ready to speak because Jay Darden's the one behind the budget. He's a tax and spend liberal. People in Baton Rouge believe him because they don't have any alternative news that's telling people the truth. And, the $600 million blows my mind. By the way, he said it, that he inherited the previous deficit of $2 billion. When I'm telling you, I can prove he voted and caused the problem if it was a $2 billion problem. He voted for 6 of 8 Bobby Jindal's budgets. He voted, they claim the Stelly bill caused all this stuff. Stephanie Grace has a piece. It was out yesterday. They went all over the Stelly bill and how the Stelly bill caused the problem. And there are many articles out there. And he voted for it, yet he doesn't get blamed for it. Bobby Jindal supported it, but he didn't want to get rid of the Stelly bill. He ran in front of the train that was moving out, and he better get on it or he'll be left behind. But the guy that really voted for it was Bill Edwards. So I don't understand this, the previous... And then what we do in the press, we blame Jindal for 8 years, but we turn around and blame the House Republicans for what's going on now. Folks, this is really easy. I mean, if you watch it, it's really easy. By the way, he brought up the task force. Let's talk a little bit about the task force. Brandon, if I'm off on anything, you're welcome to cut in and knock me down. He talked about this task force. This task force gave their recommendations before last year's deal when they went to session. Okay. Well, You remember, Edwards didn't want to use it. Edwards went with the cat tax. It was very debated, controversy. Okay? And he never went with the plan from the committee. Yet he said, we had this tax committee, and not one bill from y'all came forward. Not one person got behind it. The governor didn't even get behind it till this year. The governor didn't get behind it last year. The governor got behind this new cat tax. Brandon, where was that tax out of? You remember they were looking at a cat tax? They claimed
Ohio.
That's what it was.
There were other states that tried it too, but Ohio was the main
And by the
one.
way, it didn't work. Okay? Nobody, remember, out of left field, folks, go read the articles. Brandon, see if you can even pull that up. Out of nowhere, Governor Edwards, with the task force that laid down the tax plan, laid it down for us, he ignored it. Yet, when he's talking to the House and the Senators, he's saying, y'all know, I didn't see one thing from the tax task force. Well, guess what? The governor didn't present any from there either when he gave the budget. He wanted this massive tax increase, and that's what he still wants, is a massive tax increase. But yet, now all of a sudden, this year, now he wants to go back to that and blame the Republicans once again. He keeps bragging about lower unemployment since, remember the number? The year 2008. Well, we got the third highest in the country, folks. My question is, what does he do to lower the unemployment rate? We know we have an out-migration, and about 3 or 4 months ago, it said we were one of 3 or 4 states that had, the only states that had median income going down, not up, yet he talked about income going up. Where does he get this stuff from? He says he had no plan from the House. The House had a great plan last year. Awesome plan. We're going to take the budget, Governor. We're going to hold it where it is, except for things that are mandatory. We'll increase it by $60, $80 million. That was the plan. You didn't like it. But that was a plan. They keep saying they don't have any plans. They do have plans. A standstill budget is perfect. Perfect. You're going to get $300 million back from the federal government. You're bragging about having this surplus of $124 million this year and $130 or $40 million next year. You act like we stopped. You raised $2.8 billion in taxes. Surely you got a few bucks laying around. Gee whiz. and so, okay, now he comes up with a plan. I only want $984 million in new revenue. We got $1.3 billion that we really need. Let me explain that. Let me give you the rest of the story. That's almost $1 billion. $984 million is almost $1 billion in my book. So really, you're only looking at about $3 billion they want less. But here's the rest of the story. $300 million is coming from the state. We probably got $200 to $250 million coming from oil and gas. Folks, you get my drift here? He's got money coming in. There are more money coming in. And I can promise you this, if the Republicans make a mistake of getting rid of the sales tax and coming back with some other pro-growth tax, it will bring in more revenue to the coffers. While we have out-migration, while our income is going down, not up, and why he's not cut $600 million out the budget. It's just frustrating, folks, because the press... He talked about Washington, D.C. not being like Washington, D.C. We become like Washington, D.C. with the help of the press, the media, the mainstream Baton Rouge media that covers this is the problem. They have brought Washington down here. You know, and then once again, he talks about TOPS. And the reason they talk about TOPS and not funding TOPS because he wants middle-class people mad as hell at the legislatures in the House. That's it. And he wants people, all these cuts that Jay Darden is supposed to come tell us about, all these cuts that make that group of people in this state get mad as you know what at the Republicans. And the House Republicans ought to know you can't stand your ground. We got too much government. We got too many universities. Nobody wants to deal with it. He wants to fully fund TOPS, but let me ask y'all a question, folks. If he wants to fully fund TOPS, why should then fully fund TOPS? But you know, he's pulling the Rob Shadow. I hate raising taxes. I hate it. Well, this is the governor. I hate not funding TOPS. I really want to fund TOPS, but I can't fund it. He needs the people that have TOPS mad as you know what. that you don't mind raising your taxes. By the way, the $600 million cuts is a lie. If he cut $600 million with nobody complaining, my God, he ought to be able to cut a few hundred million more. Brandon just sent it to me. This was 2017, April 17th. John Bel Edwards' commercial activity tax proposal released. This was what he released. The centerpiece, now listen, Julie Donahue, the centerpiece of Governor Edwards' tax overhaul was filed 2 days before the final deadline to submit legislation. He did not go with the regional tax. State Representative Sam Jones, the liberal Democrat, filed House Bill 68. It's called a commercial activity tax, a relatively low but broad tax on most business sales. Jones was the governor's best friend in the House to send this. This is what he proposed last year. He said the initial version outlined was supposed to produce $800 million to $900 million in the original outline. Now, what did that mean? That was exactly the tax that he proposed. Not this, what this task committee proposed, people. Not with this. I'm telling y'all, this is so bogus. And it's so easy to prove. But nobody in the press, as they protect him like they did the great Barack Hussein Obama. They protected John Bel. John Bel Edwards is right. Washington politics has come here, and it came here through the forms of the most, not all, the pro-Bel Edwards press. Unbelievable. We'll take a break. Be right back. Hey, hello. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has it hotline. If you'd like to be part of the program, it's your opportunity to be a voice. I know there's big stuff going on with the federal government. I just think this is very important to see what they do with this budget. I think it's a sin and shame for them to make the state government more important in people's families, businesses. By the way, one of the things that he's not saying, WWL reported interviewing Edwards, he says he wants to offset the expiring taxes, and I'm going to quote him. He says the way to do it, they could raise or maintain higher taxes on businesses, middle, and upper income earners. So he's telling you, I'm raising your taxes, that you having less money will prosper the state. You having less money will prosper yourself. You having less money will do those state wonders. Bel Edwards, WWL, quoting him. Edwards wants to offset the expiring temporary taxes with a package of other taxes that could raise or maintain higher taxes on businesses and middle class and upper income earners. So he's telling you, look, I need your money. I need your money. I'm not going to cut anything. Even though I'm telling people I'll cut $600 million out the budget. It's a shame, but that's what he's doing. By the way, let me give you one other stat. Brandon's tuning in. And what's happening in this thing is Jay Darden hadn't come up yet. We hadn't seen any Republicans ask him any questions. It's all been a Democrat Party, Black Caucus love fest. That's all the people that they've talked. Oh, Governor. That's all they're doing. So that's why I'm not putting it on right now. But one of them brought up the fact that thank you for not using one-time money to fix the budget. And can I tell you the truth? Not counting, I'm talking his first year. In the 8 years before with Bobby Jindal, that was 9 years this governor has been in office. 8 as a legislature in his first year as governor. You do realize they used $300 million of one-time money to close the gap. You do realize that, right? The same thing this lady said, well, he's only had one other budget where they didn't use one-time money that we know of. That was last year, the budget we're in now. So if you look at what Bel Edwards voted, 8 Bobby Jindal's budgets, and then he used one-time money the first time, that means 7 of the last, not last year, 7 of 9 years, he voted to use one-time money. He voted 6 to 8 times with Jindal, and he supported the use of one-time money as governor. You remember, I went crazy on this. Brandon said, what didn't you go crazy on? But I'm saying
that is exactly what I was thinking.
I went crazy on this because I said he's doing the same thing Jindal did that they complained about. They've tried to buy businesses doing the same thing he complained about Jindal. He keeps bragging about this big job thing coming in, 2,000 jobs. I don't know if it's coming in. How many jobs are there so far? None. They bought businesses left and right. So, and we got our migration problem. We got our job problem. So anyway, it's just frustrating to continue to watch the full court press to lie to the people of Louisiana, to tell people from Louisiana that you just give up some more of your money. We can sure make this thing work. And that's intriguing to me. And I've been doing this for years. The Stelly bill, I already explained to y'all how that got out. That's gone. And they keep writing about how the Stelly bill, if we could only bring it back, only bring the Stelly bill back, we could fix this. Yet, Bell Edwards gets no credit for voting it out. It's intriguing to watch this. It just stays intriguing. 844-766-6607, Hickson has a hotline. Brandon's kind of watching, because there's been no Republicans asked him questions. If they show Cameron Henry or something, we might go to it. Waiting for Jay Darden to give us the numbers. He's the one, by the way, orchestrated the budget according to the Advocate. He is the one that orchestrated this gigantic budget. So, Darden's a big part of this. Of course, you know, he's making $237.5 unless he's got a pay raise, which he may have. Ooh, did y'all see this too? Not to get too far off the subject. California to register illegal aliens to vote automatically. Court orders government to do so on all driver's license issued. So they're going to start issuing driver's license to illegals so they can be, by April's Fool's Day. We're dealing with fools, so it may as well be April Fool's Day. Folks, if I'm a Democrat and you're not upset about that, you hate this country. If you're a Democrat and you don't care about California automatically registering illegal aliens to vote, automatically, and you're a Democrat and you don't care about this, you hate this country. You hate this country with a passion. You hate it. And you may as well go somewhere else. Instead of bringing us down, go to one of these countries you think are so great. Move to Iran. I'm sure it's beautiful this time of year. Move to Afghanistan. Bring your own food and water. And toilet paper, though. There may not be none there. Think about California registering illegals. And you're automatically registered to vote if you get a driver's license. They're getting ready to hand out driver's licenses to everybody, probably 5 and up. We got to take a break. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. We'll be right back. Hello, welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. By the way, up to this point, to just now, everybody that's come on and praised Bill Edwards has been a Democrat, Black Caucus Democrat. How wonderful and great he is. And now, there's a guy on that, Brandon, but they're not putting names out there, and I don't know the face of every one of them. He did ask him. He was asking him about, we're supposed to have some additional revenue. And, folks, we got money coming, more money. We're already at record levels of how much we collected in state government. But we have more money coming, and the fact that Trump's tax cut is going to be about $300 million more that's per year. That's not one-time money. it's a shame. Every year, I'm in my 25th year. Brandon, I don't remember many years when they wasn't saying we having deficit problems or we never knew what the surplus was going to be. Even during the Mike Foster years when we had money. Man, they talked about closing schools and shutting down this and shutting down that. The whole time he was in office. They did it on the General, did it on the Blanco. I mean, I've been watching this for a long time, and did it on the Edwards. They did it on every governor. I've been sitting here. Edwards was on his back term and backside, and Mike Foster came and actually won the race. 8 years of Foster, 4 years of Blanco, 8 years of General, now 2 years of Bell Edwards. And I've been watching the same old stuff every year. And I don't care if they get more money. It doesn't matter. By the way, California registered illegal aliens to vote automatically. California take the next steps in blurring the lines between citizens and non-citizens beginning April Fool's Day when the state complies with the court order to automatically registering to vote all those who have granted driver's license. This is the state court in California. The state has long provided driver's license to all who simply claim without proof that they were citizens of this country legally. No checks made on a die. Folks, if a Democrat believes this, they don't love this country. They want it to go down. So any Democrat listening to me, if you really believe that's a good thing, you don't love this country. Matter of fact, I go as far as say you hate this country. This is not what veterans and people fought for, was illegals to come over here and start voting in a country they're not even a citizen. And we all know there was about 3 million probably voted for Hillary or more. Beginning April 1st, April Fool's Day, Brandon. We are very pleased that California will have easiest access to voter registration. The attorney with Morrison, who represented the voting rights group. That's right. They are making it to where you get a driver's license, you're registered to vote. Now, folks, how many of you people think this is fair? 844-766-6607, Hickson has a hotline. Let me tell you something. The most important thing in this country, we do as a country, is vote. How can the Democrats get an easy ride and celebrate when they win an election with stuff like this? How can they really look at themselves in the mirror and go, oh, okay, that's what we ought to do, unless they hate the country? You see why California can never go Republican or any other way at all with that kind of mess going on? By the way, New York, some of these other states are going to follow suit. But boy, let the Republicans do something. Example, what if the state of Louisiana said, no abortions, we're not killing any babies. You cannot do that here now. No matter who you are, we're shutting down the baby-killing business. The liberals and the left and the courts would go nuts. They would go nuts. But they tell us, well, the federal government overruns whatever state laws are there. But how come? This is unconstitutional, 100%. You have to be a citizen in the United States of America to vote. You have to live in a state, and sometimes there's rules in different states. Somebody can say, well, Moon, this is a state law. Voting has to do with state laws. This got to be unconstitutional. You have to be a citizen. Don't you have to be a citizen? How can a party? Now, we got a party who does not mind illegal votes, does not mind cheating on voters. We got a party that kills babies. We got a party that's changed the definition of a marriage. We got a party saying if you're a man or woman, depending on how you feel that day, that's fine with us. How does a party survive with those type actions? You got a party that don't want to fund the military but want to fund illegals to be in the citizen. DACA, $3.6 million. That's incredible to me. And by the way, that's happening. They didn't pass it. Brandon, did you see? FBI said it failed to preserve 5 months of Strokes text messages. The FBI said on Sunday said it failed to preserve 5 months of text messages involving a senior agent who was taken off special counsel Robert Mueller's investigative team following a report he made derogatory comments about Trump. Brandon, you realize the Watergate tape was about 18 minutes long? 18 minutes long. We had all kind of people going to jail. How can this be, folks? The revelation came as the Justice Department turned over additional text messages to Congress involving Peter Strzok. A veteran counterintelligence agent also worked the Hillary Clinton email case. He was discharged from Mueller's team for making derogatory retorts about Trump. I mean, how does the Mueller team keep going? I mean, I'm just curious. How does it keep going? I mean, this stuff keeps popping up over and over and over again, and nothing's ever done on the left. Nothing's ever done on the left, and that blows my mind. Here it is right here, Americans for Limited Government. Worse than Watergate. 5 months is worse than 18 minutes. Nixon's secretary, Rosemary Woods, erased 18 minutes of a tape and became infamous, I guess you want to call it. The FBI erased 5 months of the text message leading up to Mueller's investigation. Expect the American public to believe it was a random mistake. Worse than Watergate. This also included the involvement of FBI Deputy Director McCabe and the desire of top-level FBI officials to create an insurance policy against a Trump presidency. I'm telling you, Brandon, that whole thing dealing with Trump and collusions has become such a joke. Why won't they be pulled off of this? I'm just kind of curious. A lot of stuff happening, folks, in our country. I just think the left ought to not win any of them. Out of Baton Rouge to Washington, D.C. Unbelievable. All right, we got to take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. We'll take a break. Be right back. Hi, hello. Welcome back. All right, we're going to go back to the governors because they're letting Republicans ask questions now. Here we go.
Lap that you're taking, I think we share that as well because we added money to higher education and we added money to TOPS. And so I'd like to kind of be clear on the record on that.
Well, first of all, I don't think.
By the way, she made a great point to Bell Edwards. Bell Edwards' original budget cut 70% out of TOPS. The House added the 70% in there that everybody's talking bad about. It was the House Republicans that added it back in, not Bell Edwards. She just ate his lunch up. Let's go.
To address the deficit that we inherited, there was not enough revenue to fix the problem. And so I can't remember exactly what the cut to TOPS was. I know it was front-loaded, I should say back-loaded into the spring semester. But that was in 2016.
Yeah, the budget.
That was.
I believe, sir, that the budget that you proposed last year did not have TOPS fully funded, and we added the money in the legislature. We added the money to fully fund TOPS in last year's budget.
Well, let's do it again.
I agree. Let's do it again. You gave
I'm
us a
ready to do
much
it.
bigger.
Why didn't he do it?
To go from 80%.
I'm not giving you anything, Senator Hewitt. I'm taking the money that's in the forecast. And we're budgeting against that. If you all had done what I asked you to do, I promise you there wouldn't be a cut in TOPS in my executive budget proposal this year. It was the short-term piecemeal approach that was taken by the legislature that sunsetted at 27 months, and that money goes away on June 30th. Absent that, you would not have that document in front of you that shows any cut to TOPS. And I have said it over and over
Increased
again
taxes,
today.
Brandon.
I don't support that cut to TOPS any more than I support the cut to the DAs, the sheriffs, to higher education, to our partner hospitals, or any other critical health care, or anything else that's in it, including your 5% cut to the legislature, or the 5% cut to the judiciary. I don't support any of those.
So let's talk about what the options are. So there's multiple options, and the options that you tend to go to are those that have to do with revenue. So let's talk about the things that you've done to look at expenses. You talk a lot about the task force report, the Budget and Tax Reform Task Force. As you know, the majority of the work that they delivered had to do with taxes. There was not very much work or airtime given to budget reform. But they did quote the Streamlining Commission as work that had previously been done that would be good to be implemented. Many of those recommendations had already been implemented. Many of them had not. So my question to you is, did you all look at that, and have you gone forward with implementing those things that were recommended from the Streamlining Commission work to reduce your expenses?
Well, first of all, I would tell you that a great deal of the projected savings that came from the Streamlining Commission were never realized. Now, they would decide how much an agency would save if it implemented those recommendations. They would budget to that number, and then the agency didn't realize the savings, and that's how we ended up, part of the reason we ended up with so many mid-year budget cuts. Secondly, when it comes to actions I've taken on the expense side, Senator, I have cut over $600 million state general fund in the 2 years I've been governor. Now, that is the most significant action that I can take as governor on the expense side. And those cuts have not been easy.
And help me understand that, Governor, because I'm having a hard time reproducing those numbers, the $600 million.
Well, I'll give you the list, but it is simple arithmetic. We had a $2 billion deficit for the first full year that I was governor. You raised revenue to address part of that. That revenue expires on June 30th. We're not here looking for $2 billion. You didn't raise $2 billion. You raised far less than that. And the difference is the cuts. Had I not cut money, we would still have a $2 billion problem. But I have a complete list of cuts that I'm happy to give you, all of state general fund dollars. And it adds up to more than $600 million.
I guess maybe my definition of a cut is different than yours. I mean, a $600 million cut, I would think, would be a reduction in state general fund dollars from 1 year to the next. And what I'm looking at is $8.7 billion in fiscal year 16, 9.1 in fiscal year 17, 9.4 in fiscal year 18 appropriated. I don't get the $600 million cut.
Well, I'll show you the list, and one of the things you're not taking into consideration are the required services that are imposed on us by law that we have to fund that go up every year. So if you, I mean, I can explain it to you. I can't understand it for you, and I'm not trying to be ugly about that.
Insulting.
But it's more. No, but I'm not trying to be. It's more cuts, than folks. Just
that's what I've been telling
the
you.
difference in state general fund.
There's no cuts.
You've got to look at the increases in state services that are required by laws that you all have passed and you haven't repealed them. And so it's not as easy as simply adding and subtracting 1 year's numbers to the next. You've got to really get into those numbers. Right. But I have the list.
Yeah, but when you throw $600 million out, Governor, you throw it out, it's real easy and simple. I cut $600 million, and I'm telling y'all, that is not true. It's never been true, and Sharon, you had nailed him on that. Go.
You adding to your wish list or adding inflation and then cutting, that doesn't count as a cut.
That's not what we did.
$600 less in state general revenue when you compare 1 year to the next, and I don't see it
went
in the
up,
numbers
folks.
that have been provided by our fiscal staff.
Yeah.
Senator Hewitt, well, I think one of the things, probably the confusion may lie, if you don't mind me interjecting here, is several years ago we had two periods where we had about a $400 or $500 million
what weenie is that?
Reductions. And one of the things we found out during that process is that we would reduce one agency by a certain dollar amount.
No,
they were allowed to backfill that money with not state general fund, maybe with some self-generated money, maybe with some fees that were left over. So the confusion lies in whether we're playing that we actually reduce the overall budget of an agency, or we reduce their state general fund dollars, but then allowed them to put more money through maybe some fees that they had left over, some self-generated revenue. I think that's the path that you possibly could be going down, which would lie the confusion between the two when the governor is discussing a reduction in state general fund, and the senator's trying to look at it, not looking at total means of finance, not looking at just state general fund. And I think if you go back and look at those presentations that were made, I know the commissioner can speak to it because I remember it vividly. He would say we cut $400 million, and I would correct him and say, no, you only reduced $36 million because you were able to backfill everything else. We did this dance once before several years ago. So that might be the part where we're having some confusion. So as you move through trying to reconcile the numbers between the two, I think that's something you could probably look at to save both of you all some time. Commissioner, I believe you were going to talk.
I think that may be part of it, but the other part of it is something that you all, I think, often are not mindful of, and that is the increase year to year in required expenditures related to services that you all mandate in law. And so you can cut in some areas and increase in others. And so if all you look at are the top numbers, you don't necessarily see what's below them. And I think Jay has...
Well, let me just add one thing that is being overlooked.
Jay Dart.
Is that the budget that you inherited and we inherited had $860 million in one-time money
Brandon,
that we replaced with recurring...
I'm done with the whole thing. Okay. Jay Darden, now listen, he said the budget that we inherited and you inherited it. God dang it. Makes me so mad for that man to say that. It's the budget that Bell Edwards voted for. Yes, some Republicans voted for it. John Alario, Big Lake Fannin, Robert Adley. Folks, you notice how he spit all over himself when he mentioned that $600 million cut? Because, Sharon, you nailed him. And that was Cameron Henry, by the way. I thought he was going to be a weenie, but he actually described it. He talked you heard him say, Jay, we went over this before. When y'all thought it was $400 million in cuts, ended up being $36 million. Jay Darden, and I don't have the article anymore, and I wish I'd have kept it, said there's no $600 million cuts. There's no $600 million cuts. What did Jay say? The budget you inherited and we inherited. Okay.
Senator Hewitt's back at it right now.
Okay,
again.
let's go.
I do not believe the $600 million number is real.
I don't either.
So if you all could provide some data to help us better understand that, I would appreciate that very much.
Sure. Wonder where they got that question from, folks. Go ahead.
Your statement about right size, the government is the right size. Because I don't know that I agree with that or I understand that. And one of the things that I have looked at, and I know that you all have looked at this also, is what does it cost us to deliver services in the state of Louisiana relative to other states? And we know from the work that GNO Inc. has done that our numbers are high, that we are an outlier. We stand out because our cost of delivering services is higher than the other states.
That's a fact, folks.
And so I question whether we do have the right size government, and the task is not just to find the revenue to fund it, but again, perhaps we need to be looking at, is this the right size government? Are these the services that we need to be delivering? Let
me address that. I think what I was referring to there is we had, especially 2 years ago, but then to some degree again last year as well, we had a lot of discussion.
All right, folks. Boy, Sharon, you had popped him, and that's a great question. We spend way more money than other southern states. We're way ahead of the southern states on how much we spend. Great question on the $600 million. What have I been preaching to y'all for the 6 months? That is a made-up, bogus number. And she said